Some big announcements today, of course. The adding of two teams and a fourth night of basketball on television. There are some people in the world that high school friends that still call me the icebox because I literally ran like I had an icebox on my back.
A good thing is about to get even better. Unrivaled going into year number 2, which will tip off that season in January. Some good news around that, which makes it so timely, so fitting that we've got Executive Vice President, Broadcast and Production at Unrivaled with us. I'm Bryan Fenley. Matt Miller joins the Sports Media with a Human Touch podcast. And Matt, knowing the people that you know that have been on, you knew I was going to reach out. You knew at some point you were going to come on. So thanks for being a part of this.
No, I appreciate the invitation. Always great to talk to you.
The excitement around the news that came out yesterday and even today around the addition of more teams, more players, from a broadcasting standpoint, how does that get things really exciting moving into year number 2?
Yeah, this has been a great week with some big announcements. Today, of course, the adding of two teams and a fourth night of basketball on television is just, from my perspective, incredible. It's just more exciting. I think anyone who's been in live TV, the more time, we can have our adrenaline pumping in the truck doing our thing is the best. So for me, less days in between games and more basketball is that's where my job hits its sweet spot. So I couldn't be more excited. It's going to be a fantastic season two, and my group, my team is very excited to get started.
Started in January when that thing will tip off. It was 8 weeks the season, if I'm not mistaken, in 2024. And that obviously will get started in January. So the league now, 8 teams
Yep.
with this edition, 54 players, which is up from 6 teams and about 36 players. And you've got this opportunity to add that extra night of broadcasting. And when you do that, and when people see the product and the eclipsing of first year expectations, I would think, for the league, what message are you and your team at Unrivaled sending to the masses who are digesting this product?
I don't think we could have scripted season one any better, quite honestly. It was such a success from every perspective. I think from the league perspective, from the players' perspective, from the fans' perspective. People really gravitated towards the league, the excitement of a new type of basketball, 3-on-3, but in a full court setting. So I think that was just something new that everybody enjoyed. The atmosphere in the arena was unbelievable. I'd love to say that I got a chance to be in the arena, but I think we all know in live TV, I'm out in the parking lot in the truck. But I know it, I mean, you could feel it through the TV and you could feel it in the truck and everywhere. And I think the fact that we were able to expand the league so quickly just shows how much of a success it was, from every perspective. Our commercial partners, just everybody that was involved in year one walked away with just an incredible sense of success of what we had built in season one.
You've had a lot of success in your career at some really neat broadcasting stops, variety of different sports that you've worked with across your career. Having those experiences, working with those other sports, how has that fortified or sort of made your mindset as to what good broadcasting is going into your appointment with Unrivaled?
Yeah, I've gotten extremely lucky in my career. I will say that. And I've worked with a lot of incredible people that have really shaped where I've gotten to this point. I've seen every aspect of the industry, but from a live perspective, the last 10 years or so have been an incredible education of the good and sometimes the not so good of live television. But between WWE, DAZN, One Championship, seeing it all globally as well as not just the United States, definitely helped, build this, idea that I always had of what I wanted the broadcast that I work on to look like creatively and other. And it's also given me the opportunity to work with so many great people that I've been able to bring along with me, producers, directors, all through the crew, cameramen that are so incredible at what they do. Quite honestly, they make me look good, which I love. But ultimately, that group, because look, anyone who's been in a live setting knows you become a family very quickly, the live team, whether you're traveling or not, you spend that many nights in the truck grinding it out with the same group of people over a season or a year or whatever it is. I think that there's no chance it won't impact your vision for that night's broadcast and the ones that come after it. So, I've gotten extremely lucky, like I said, working for some incredible organizations that do live television at a level that, the sports world, enjoys and, awards. And I think that has definitely shaped my vision over the years.
Part of your vision, you said it, the creativity. What does that look like on screen when we really get to see Matt Miller and his team's creativity?
Yeah, I mean, I think last year was a learning experience for everybody because it was a new brand of basketball, a very fast-paced game of basketball. So I think, from a creative standpoint, it was a little bit of a learning process last year for everybody. Cameramen, the director, just the speed of it, even the graphics, the live graphics of the stats that went in. There were times where a live graphic with a stat would go up and the next shot had already gone up. And it was like, oh God, like putting that stat up and that stat's might not even be real anymore. So, it was a lot of learning for us last year, but I thought we did a great job of bringing people into a very intimate space because it was only roughly 800 seats last year in this soundstage because it's a manufactured arena. It's not a 20,000 seat arena. So, being able to be creative, but also bring people into this very loud, intimate space was important to us.
What can other sports leagues in how they broadcast, pro leagues, if we include all of those, can they learn about what you've learned year one going into year two about broadcasting?
It's interesting. We actually, obviously we partnered with Turner Sports. We're on TNT. And quite honestly, they're the best when it comes to basketball. It's why they did it for decades, and still do it for college basketball. I mean, they're as good as it comes. So, for me, some of it has been learning from them as well. I certainly don't have all the answers. I think it'd be pretty crazy for me to say that I do. I think for me, a lot of times it's having a technically sound broadcast makes me go home at night with a smile on my face. But, at the end of the day, I think I watch sports differently when I'm at home now, over the last 10 years, definitely. Sometimes I see, mistakes that, most people at home don't see. And I think, maybe that's a product of my environment as well, is that maybe sometimes I'm very much into the attention to detail. Trying to get rid of those little things that someone at home might see. That's kind of where I'm at. But I don't know that it's learning from anything that I've done more than it's just, taking pieces from what other people are doing and learning from others and then seeing what works. What works best for Unrivaled may not work for another sports league or something else just because of the field of play or whatever aspect of it that is different than our league.
When you see so many people that are investing in this incredible product that you have, how does that further validate the mission, the purpose of the league and where it's going?
It's incredible. I actually started on this project about 2 years prior to when I moved into the job full time. I was introduced, a friend of mine and I were introduced to Luke and Alex, and we helped them develop the project from a live perspective, just to put it on paper with a budget so they could, go out into the world and know from a funding aspect how much the live side was going to cost. And at that time, I had helped develop maybe 4 or 5 different other projects over an 18-month period. And something about this project always resonated with me. Like, that month we spent working on it, it was wow, like not that I didn't hope that everybody that I helped went out and got their funding, but this one I definitely in the back of my mind was like, wow, I really do hope that this resonates with people as much as it did with me. And I think we're seeing that with so many investment funds, athletes that are investing in it. I just think it has shown not only just an investment in women's sports, but just how incredible this league could be and is already and can be in the future.
When you have a 3-on-3 situation on court, how does that affect your ability as a broadcaster to storytell when there aren't as many players on the court?
Yeah, it's not just the number of players on the court, but also how quickly the game's moving, how much subbing in and out there is, and also that we made it a point to try and make these games roughly 1 hour in length. So there really isn't a lot of time, quite honestly. A lot of it falls on my broadcast team, which are Brendan Glasheen, Sarah Kustok, Lisa Leslie, our reporters, whoever it is, to find their spots to storytell from within the game. We also don't have, it's not a normal game of basketball where it's two free throws if you get fouled. We're 1 for 2 and 1 for 3. So in an NBA game or a college game, there's a little bit more of a lull. You go to the line, you shoot one, it takes a second, you get the second ball. We just don't have that kind of time. So yes, we have to get a little bit more creative. We also lean on an amazing TNT studio crew to, in between games and half times, lean on them to help tell the stories pregame and post and during the game. So I think it's, yeah, just trying to find our spots and, getting as many of the stories as we're hearing, into the broadcast.
It sure helps, I'm sure, that you have players that are within the league that are using their platforms as well to sing
Yeah.
the praises of this league. And when you have that as well and their openness to share their stories, how does that make your job a little bit easier?
The social buzz around this league has been its greatest asset. Whether it's the players or even our social team, which does an amazing job of amplifying everything that goes on around Unrivaled. Um, and I think that's part of what makes this league great is, now these women are not going overseas to play and they can continue to build their brand in, the winter around Unrivaled. And, some of the social content that went out last year was amazing. Some that went viral. Lisa Leslie is a big part of that as well. In some of the videos that she's been a part of, just even practicing with some of the players. So the social component is enormous. I actually wish there was more time in the broadcast to get some of that social media content into the show. Hopefully this year we can find some more spots to do that, which would be great because, it's amazing content.
It brings me to thinking, when you're overseeing a broadcast, how much of it from your point of view do you want the emphasis to be on the action in front of you? How much of the time do you feel that it is imperative to tell the story that might not be visible to the naked eye when they're watching the broadcast?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a balance there. What it is, I think, varies a lot. Again, we are a very short, compact broadcast. So much of it is what you're seeing on the court in front of you and anything that's wrapped around that 4 quarters. But, I think because Unrivaled is a little different in that it's kind of its own ecosystem. The players are all in the same hotel. The staff, we're all kind of living together, almost in like a bubble in a weird way between the center of town of where these hotels are to the facility. That being able to tell the stories is incredible. And anytime we can get them in, I think it's important. But I do think people want to understand and learn about all of these women more. And also see some incredible basketball, high level competitive basketball, which they absolutely played last year.
From what you're able to share, season one to season two, what are the players going to see that's different beyond what we talked about from the addition of more players and from a team component as well?
I think There'll definitely be some upgrading of the facility. I think from that aspect, everything else unfortunately will come in time. There's still more announcements to come this off season, so can't exactly give away everything. But there will definitely be some enhancements to the facility because that was incredibly important to everybody that started this league, was to make their experience the best, so that they left Miami, saying, wow, Unrivaled is amazing. And they did, which is great. So, it's how do we take it to the next level, to the next step to make it even better for everybody?
We talked about the league, and I would love to ask a little bit about you, and that is the the passion that you have for broadcasting, and you've worked just about every sport that's out there in a variety of different ways. But when you think of the way that your vision for a broadcast has adjusted or shifted from when you first got into the business to now, what differences and what parallels would you see?
Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of different sports. It's funny, my career started actually in like longer form documentary content and long form features. It was more, I actually came from the storytelling side really the first half of my career. So, the live aspect didn't come until a little later. But what shaped it was, again, WWE, which, I mean, nobody puts on big events like they do. Being at the zone and seeing that build from the ground floor, from scratch, from the boxing product. I think that's probably where I had the most impact of my career on a broadcast, because it was starting from scratch. And then moving to one championship and, being able to see it from a global perspective. I think all of that, you know, moved me in one way, and again showed me some positives and some things I wanted to avoid along the way. Making sure that we were doing a great broadcast that the fans wanted to watch. I think a lot of that doesn't always come from the video that we show. Sometimes it's the announcers and the talent that are explaining the action and actually telling the stories, and them being a big part of, the product, because they are not only the front face of it, but also, being the voice of it. It's their tone. They're the ones setting it. So I think it's the biggest thing I've walked away from all these years is my attention to finding the best talent team to bring the broadcast to life.
With that said, what does that look like? Because there's an energy, there is a knowledge that must come with these teams, and setting the precedence for what this league is all about, and the responsibility that comes with that.
Yeah, it's when it comes to talent and anything, it's look, we were a year ago and we had no idea what it was going to be. Again, got incredibly lucky that I was able to secure a fantastic group. I mean, quite honestly, Brendan Glasheen is fantastic doing play by play. Lisa Leslie is a legend in the game, and Sarah Kustok is fantastic on the air. So again, we got extremely lucky. I mean, we had Taylor Rooks and Ali LaForce and some of the best of the TNT reporters. So again, everybody made me look very good last year. So I will not complain about that at all. But setting the tone for a new league is important. It's, you go on the air the first night, and I don't even know that we knew. We had a couple of preseason games, but we didn't really know what we were, going to see, and how competitive it was going to be. And we found out very quickly that this was going to be an extremely competitive basketball league, which I think helped us on the broadcast side to show and tell the story of what was going on, because the players were so competitive in what they were showing.
How good of a writer were you growing up?
Growing up, I can honestly say I was a bit of an underachiever, Brian. I'll be honest.
Why? What makes you think that?
Um, you know what? I don't know. I just feel like I definitely I don't know if it was, I just didn't know where I wanted to go. I know I always knew I wanted to work in sports. I knew that, but I didn't start really becoming a better writer until I'd like to say Jim Huber had a huge impact on my writing. I worked with him for a few years back when I was at the PGA Tour. And I know a lot of people have over the years called my writing very esoteric and just I'll use 30 words when you could probably use five. And sometimes maybe it doesn't even make sense. Sure, I get it. But like Jim Huber's essays were a lot of what shaped my overall writing. So yes, a lot of what I did in the first half of my career, may he rest in peace. I probably owe a little bit of it to Jim.
What are you passionate outside of Unrivaled and what your life looks like?
Ah, my passion. I will say, and I know it sounds very cliche to say because I work in basketball, but I don't think there's a night in the winter where basketball is not on my television in some way or my laptop or whatever. I am an enormous NBA basketball fan. I know that's probably not a big group of us, but I am a diehard NBA fan. So I think that plays a very big part in why I also wanted and loved this concept and wanted to be a part of Unrivaled because basketball has always been my number one, even growing up. Got a chance to coach some youth sports, youth basketball along the way when I was younger. But yeah, I've loved the sport of basketball my entire life.
What kind of
Wish I
coach
could
are
still
you?
play. Wish I could still get out there and play, but oof, no
Well, I was going
chance.
to say, I was going to ask you about your coaching, but I was also going to ask you when was the last time you played 3-on-3?
I haven't played 3-on-3 probably in 15 years, 10, 15 years. Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, look, I got out on the court at Unrivaled and put some shots up. There was no doubt about it. It was impossible not to. I definitely got some shots up, but getting up and down the court anymore, yeah, unfortunately, you know what my biggest fear was, Brian, that I would get out on the court during the season, start playing, and a knee or an Achilles or something would happen, and then somehow the rest of the season it would be me in a boot or on one of those carts with my leg. One of those scooters. I just didn't seem like the right way to go, to be honest.
Well, maybe coaching is the right way to go. And if I, in this imaginary experience, if I was a player and you were the coach, and you saw me not running back hard enough on defense, and
Hmm.
it's a timeout, and I'm hunched over one of the chairs, and you're talking to the team, when am I going to hear from you?
Oh man, you know what? 15 years ago when I coached, I don't know that I would have said what I would say today. That's for sure. I definitely think I'd have a different way of going about it. You know, uh, to be honest, I think everything we do in life is the effort you put into it. If you put 100% effort in, you're going to get 100% result. May not be the result you want all the time, but you're going to get what you put in. It's always been something has been in my head. I might not have done it that way my entire life or even to my entire career, but at times, but definitely I think that's what it is ultimately. Would I've made you run some suicides at the next practice, Brian? Maybe. I don't know. It's possible. There was one I used to love where you'd run with the ball holding over your head. It really does not, it's not fun. But again, like I think some of that side of it, which wouldn't be me now, comes from when I played youth sports. It was a different time, playing high school football and them wanting to, run us into the ground, thinking that was the way to coach. I think we've come a long way to find out that probably isn't the way.
Last question for you. And I don't know if you went into this conversation thinking I was going to ask you what position you played high school football, but that's where we are to close it out.
Okay. So I was I'd love to say I was a starter. It did not happen that way. I was a backup wide receiver and defensive back. Had great hands. Slow, you've no idea how slow. I mean, just there are some people in the world that high school friends that still call me the ice box because I literally ran like I had an ice box on my back. That's how slow things were moving. So The getting open thing was not as easy, but once the ball was near me, I had great hands. So that's all I had going.
Great hands makes me think you would have been a good holder, which makes me think
Okay.
that you are the guy to hold things down here for Unrivaled. It's been a
I
pleasure
hope.
to share your story, Matt Miller. I'm Bryan Fenley. We went to some cool places. We learned about you from a personal side and also the great work that you and your team is doing. Unrivaled right now, unstoppable, and
Yes, it is.
you're just part of it. You know that, as you've
Small
said, you're a
part.
humble guy. You said luck a few times in the interview, but at the end of the day, you know what you're doing. They love having you, and thanks so much for being a part of this.
I appreciate it, Brian. Thanks for everything.